And the clerk of the board. So at this time, I'll call the meeting to order. If you'd please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from April 29th, 2022. Is there any corrections, additions? Everybody good with it? Okay. Next, we're going to move down to office business, and before we proceed with any of new business, we need to correct last week's motions. We had the amounts reversed on the fund expenditures and the salary clearing, so we need to make the correct amount of $783,191.72 for the fund expenditures. So we need a motion for that.
Make the motion that we correct the amounts on the fund expenditures, which was voted at $1,009,426. It was incorrect. The correct amount is $783,191.72. The salary clearing was voted as $783,237.29 was incorrect. The correct amount should have been $1,009,426.28.
Second. So there's been a motion and a second to correct the amount of $783,191.72 for fund expenditures and $1,009,426.28 for salary clearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So with that, I think we only have one voucher this morning for this week.
That is correct. We have fund expenditures. Move for approval of fund expenditures in a total amount of $941,246.31 as presented, and note that it has been reviewed and signed by two representatives of the auditor's office and the county administrator.
Second. There's been a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Next, we'll move down to the consent agenda. There are 6 items on the consent agenda today.
Move for approval of consent agenda items 1 through 6.
Second. There's been a motion and a second for the 6 consent agenda items. Without discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we'll move down to the Commissioner Administrator updates. Mr. Johnson.
Good morning. A couple things that we've been focused on since our last meeting. Had another shoreline reconveyance meeting with our regional partners and representatives of the Umatilla tribe. We are crafting semi-final language for a memorandum of agreement between the different organizations and the tribe that will respect tribal treaty rights. That's their major concern, and we're just making sure that we've included that language in the agreement. Also beginning the drafting of the legislation that we anticipate to go before Congress. That legislation process takes quite a bit of time. We don't expect it to be finalized and presented till early next year, but just to give you an update of kind of the status of where that project is. We are asking for some meetings with a representative of the Colville tribe to kind of discuss their plans for the Pasco property. They would like to meet with each commissioner. I've asked Shirley Jones to set up those meetings early next week, Monday or Tuesday, or not next week. It won't be till after the 13th of June when they're available. But would ask that when Shirley contacts you for those meetings, that you make yourself available if at all possible, so that you have an idea of what we're all talking about when we get to that point. Had a WASAC virtual call yesterday. I think some of the commissioners were on that call, talking about U.S. Department of Agriculture grants available for counties and how USDA operates across the country, particularly with local governments. There was a local decision makers meeting to talk about kind of COVID updates. We're still seeing some significant numbers of COVID in Franklin County, although it's gotten much better where we were several months ago. There are still active COVID cases in the community. Been meeting with our HR director on some HR and labor matters. Also working on some issues with our financial software. I think you're also aware that we've been in the process of beginning to work on improving and updating our county website. There will be opportunities for you as commissioners to kind of weigh in on what that should look like, but that is ongoing. And then lastly, focused on the Bi-County Police Information Network, known as BIPIN. We are converting to a new provider, new software system. Anytime you go through a major change like that, there are obviously a lot of details and challenges to overcome. We're working through those. We've identified all of the issues that are outstanding and working with the vendor. The vendor has dedicated essentially a full-time team to assist us in that conversion process. So we're trying to make that available to go live by the end of the month. So those are the things I had to update the board on this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner Peck.
At the Regional Economic Development District Board meeting last Friday, among a number of topics, probably the two most notable were we're looking at possible restructure of the federally funded Rural Revolving Loan Fund program, which funds loans for small and startup businesses to create and protect existing jobs. Also had the Benton Franklin Council of Governments, number of important issues there, but among them updates to Transportation Improvement Program listings, and also some additional money from the State County Road Administration Board that helped fund one of the projects that we just talked about, or we just approved. HAFIC meeting yesterday had a schedule conflict, but I did catch part of it, and then the WASAC meeting yesterday also had a schedule conflict, but I downloaded the audio from it and am in the process of going through that now. That's it.
Commissioner Mullen.
So also sat in on the WASAC meeting yesterday with the USDA. We had a local decision makers meeting last week and had some conversations with the sheriff and Lords about the formation of the Behavioral Health Committee. And I was wondering if Keith had any new information on that and maybe the progress of the KGH building.
I do. I'd be happy to address it now. I had anticipated talking about that during administration office business, but whatever the will of the board is. And
Yeah, I would prefer you just do it as scheduled. Thanks.
That's it. Thank you.
We'll do it as scheduled. Well, last week, Ben Franklin Health District canceled the monthly, quarterly was canceled, which sort of messed up the quarterly financial meeting because I thought it was canceled too, but because they were running on the same day, but it wasn't, and we didn't have a quorum, so it got canceled because we didn't have a quorum. Matt and I both didn't show up. And then I had calls on their report that has been sealed for 10 years about what's this all about. People are interested, so getting a lot of interest on prior history of Franklin County and why this report is sealed. So with that, we'll move on down to the public comment. Is there any public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. Stephen Bauman. On your point there, Mr. Didier, I would wonder if we could have an update on, I know that there was some effort being put into looking into that report, and wondered if we could have an update on that. Would be interested in seeing that. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have an update too. I'm still not aware of what document anybody is talking about.
Is Sean on the phone?
I don't know that Sean is on the phone. I have made a request for him to look into.
I am on the phone.
Oh,
Well, Sean, is there
I was going to come down.
Sean, is there a report from the fraud in the Public Works Department that was sealed?
There is nothing that was sealed, and that, I guess, has perplexed me since the beginning of discussions. I had no idea what people were referencing to any sealed report. The issue was if it was a request for some report during a time when criminal charges were being reviewed and developed, there would be an exemption to any public records request, but our office has not received any public records request for any report. My understanding is any report going back to, if we're talking about the fraud investigation, I don't believe there would be any basis for any exemption, or maybe there's going to be some redactions for personal information such as account numbers or social security numbers that could be referenced in there just like any other public records request, but I'm not aware of anything that was sealed with the court. Sometimes what happens is search warrants are sealed for a period of time, but once charges are filed, that usually triggers an automatic release of those sealed documents. So I don't know if there's a confusion as to whether or not there were search warrants that were filed under seal, and that would have only been for a limited period of time, but our office has never sealed anything separately outside of any kind of search warrants that probably for a period of time would have been under seal with the court.
Well,
So if anybody wants a request, just submit the request of what you're asking for, and we can try to search back and figure out what 10-year-old report this discussion relates to. My office has not received any requests, so we haven't even been able to identify what report people are even referencing because there's been no identification of what report or specificity that we would need to go ahead and look for that.
to my understanding, this report was done by a Miss Taylor that worked in your office?
And if that's the case, then that request should be made. If it's identified as a report by Ms. Taylor, I could certainly search for that specific report, and I would gladly release that to Keith for dissemination to anybody that wants it.
Well, I would like to see the report, Sean, so if I could get a copy of that without the notes, drafts on the report, and the preliminary and the final with no redactions. And do you have a tape recording of this?
I'm not aware of any kind of tape recording. I didn't participate in any kind of investigation. That would have been something done either with, as you say, with Ms. Taylor or an outside investigator or law enforcement investigators that participated in gathering the evidence on the actual case that led to criminal charges. Those charges were ultimately handled by the State Attorney General's office.
Okay, and the judge was Matheson. So if you
The
could...
judge was actually, I believe the judge was actually Judge Vanderscore back at the time at sentencing. But it depends. There could have been several other judges, Mr. Chairman, that were likely involved with review of affidavits of probable cause or search warrants that were generated because I believe this was a pretty prolonged investigation with multiple warrants issued. So there could have been several judges' signatures, but I remember, I believe, the sentencing judge on that was Judge Vanderscore, who is now retired.
Okay. Well, if you could, what do you need, a formal request then by a citizen for this? Or plus, I would like to review it first as a commissioner because for this, before this can be released to the public, the commissioners have to release it. Correct?
Well, actually, no. I think if this request had been given to us as a public records request, we would review it for redactions. And if we can locate a report that meets the criteria generated by Ms. Taylor, then we would certainly review that for the normal redactions. If it turns out that that was a report generated for litigation, I still believe, based on the amount of time that has gone by, there would still be an opportunity for that to be released at this point in time. So if you would prefer, we'll try to locate, identify the report that's been discussed now with the clarification of who was the author and approximate time frame and subject matter, and I will report back to Mr. Johnson so that the board could receive a copy of that once located.
Yes, and I would like a copy without any of the redactions. I'd like to see the notes, too, and the preliminary and the final draft of the report. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I've got some additional comments on this subject. While I'm confident that the prosecutor will follow the statute, I don't believe it's proper for elected officials to have purview to information 10 years old that the public doesn't get to see. So I'm all in favor of whatever this alleged report is that no one seems to be able to identify, and certainly support the public records request, but also whatever this record is, if it even exists, we need to comply with the statute in terms of redactions. To not do so puts the county at risk for whomever, if there's even a report, if there's private information, social security numbers, those kinds of things that don't get redacted, then we simply open the county up to a claim needlessly. So I'm all in favor of looking for this alleged record, but I want us to follow the statute. No advance copies for people, no special redaction rules. Follow the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pack. If the commissioners are the ones that can release this to the public, I think the commissioners need to be informed of what's in the report and make our own decision whether we release it to the public. And this was sealed by the commissioners of this court, of this Franklin County at that time.
I believe that's incorrect. I was here, and I have no recollection of the county commissioners ever sealing any
Well,
of that.
let's just let the process work.
Mr. Chairman, I have the floor. I have no recollection over the last 14 years of Franklin County Commissioners ever sealing any records. But if there is such a record and we can follow the law, I'm all in favor of putting the light of day on it. But no special viewing for anybody. Follow the law. Thank you.
As a commissioner, we need to see it, Keith, before we release it.
Yeah, I have no personal knowledge of what this is. It's been described to me as part of the Houston investigation that took place in Public Works back in 2012.
Yep.
I don't know, because I have not seen the report, nor do I really know who produced it or who technically owns it in terms of supervising the report. But if it were an investigation related to that matter, I would think there may be a possibility that some of that could be protected by attorney-client privilege, and the board may not be able to disclose it without waiving that attorney-client privilege. It would ultimately obviously be up to the board to make that decision, but I have yet to find what this actual report looks like. And
Well, I'm making a formal request for that report. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on down to proclamation. We have a proclamation for Franklin County to consider regarding Franklin County and Summer Meals Week. This proclamation is bringing to light the fact that Franklin County Summer Meals Week, whereas summer is the hungriest time of the year for many children when families struggle to make up for the lost school meals and food insecurity tends to increase. And whereas more than 11.5% of Washington State residents struggle to provide enough food for their families, and more than 17.3% of Washington children are food insecure, meaning that they do not have regular access to adequate food. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated food insecurity, particularly among households with children and communities of color, and families continue to feel its effects, and whereas low-income families spend an additional $300 per week in the summer months to provide food for themselves and their children, and whereas children who are food insecure are more likely to miss school, perform worse academically, experience social, emotional, and mental health challenges, forego health care, and develop chronic disease, and whereas the National School Lunch Program, Seamless Summer Option, and the Summer Food Service Program, which are funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and administered by the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction in Washington, play a vital role in helping low-income children get the nutrition they need during summer months. and help alleviate food insecurity, and whereas summer meal programs are most effective when paired with educational and enrich activities, which provide students a fun, safe place to be with friends and stay active, help curb the learning loss experienced during the summer months, especially among low-income children, and prepare students to return to school ready to learn and thrive. And whereas summer meal programs filled a critical need in communities during the COVID-19 pandemic, thanks to program flexibilities that allow them to adapt and provide nutritional meals to children facing hunger. And whereas in the 2020 and 2021 school year, 72.5% of students in Franklin County qualified for free and reduced price lunch, yet only 19% of the youth in Washington who qualified for free and reduced price meals accessed summer meal sites. And whereas by increasing awareness about the summer meals program through outreach in the community and investing in summer programming to attract more kids to meal sites, Washington can increase access to summer meals programs. And whereas Franklin County is committed to ensure that no child goes hungry this summer. Now therefore it be proclaimed, we, the duly elected Board of Commissioners of Franklin County, Washington, do hereby proclaim June 27th through July 1st, 2022 as Summer Meals Week in Franklin County, and encourage all community members to join us in recognizing this special event. So do we have a consensus on this proclamation?
Yes.
Yes.
There we go. It's unanimous. I've already signed it. There you go. Okay, next on the agenda is the Good Road Certificate 2021, Craig Erdman. Now, this is a presentation we're given to our roads department that I just questioned you earlier. This is 30-plus years in a row.
To my knowledge, my knowledge is an employee of the county, we've never not gotten our certificate.
That's an incredible feat, Craig. So, as the county commissioners and the chairman of the county commissioners, it is my pleasure to send you the enclosed certificate of good practice that was approved by resolution of the County Road Administration Board at its meeting April 21st, 2022. It is suggested that you present this certificate to your county engineer at an appropriate time, not only our engineer, but our head guy. A certificate of good practice has been transmitted to the state treasurer on behalf of your county pursuant to the authority contained in RCW 36.78.090 as shown on the certificate enclosed. This action by the CRAB Board will assure the continued distribution of your monthly state gas tax allotment from the Office of the State Treasurer. On behalf of the members and the staff of the CRAB Board, I would like to express my appreciation for the cooperation we have received from and through your county engineer office during this past year. So Craig, congratulations.
So Craig, I'll just add a couple of notes here. As a member of the Washington State County Road Administration Board, I think there are, 4 or 5 commissioners statewide that distribute those gas taxes. I want to be sure that the public understands that were it not for your performance and compliance there, please just have a seat. Were it not for the consistent performance, Franklin County would be left out of the distribution of millions of dollars of gas tax. So that's more than just a professional attaboy, well done. That is you folks doing an outstanding job in ensuring the people of Franklin County don't lose out on millions of dollars of gas tax money. So that's a big deal. And of course, I was there and voted on it at the time, but I just wanted you to know that there were people in the meeting that commented about the fact that it had been 30 years, and not every county has that good a history. So thanks for the job you're doing.
All the credit goes to the fantastic staff I have at Public Works. They're very diligent and very professional and take their duty seriously, and all the credit really goes to them. They do the heavy lifting.
Team effort.
Yep.
Good job, and good job to all of your staff. Thank you.
And I'd just like to say with that comment of yours, shows your leadership. A leader always deflects the credit to the people underneath them. So great job, Craig.
Thank you.
So please go ahead with your, you also next, we've got the County Road Project 631 County Road All-Weather Improvement.
If it please the board, the Public Works Department brings before you a resolution to create County Road Project 631, Glade North Road All-Weather Improvement 8, Phase 1. The intent of this project is to bring the portion of Glade North Road from Sheffield Road to R170 up to all-weather standards. This section of roadway is a crucial link in the county's all-weather road system and the farm-to-market freight system. It is deteriorating and past its useful life. This project will widen the existing road to 34 feet and strengthen its base to support the ever-increasing truck demands. On September 8th, 2020, the board approved Resolution 2020-190 to approving the submittal of the final prospectus to the County Road Administration Board. The board earlier today approved the Rural Arterial Program Agreement for the construction of the proposed project, which will provide $1,128,950 towards the design and construction of the project. The total cost of the project is estimated at $1,530,000. The remaining requested funds are expected to be awarded during the 23-25 funding cycle, and there is a 10% local match requirement. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Questions, commissioners?
It's not a question, but an observation that the $1,128,950 came from that same County Road Administration Board, and those distributions don't happen unless you folks are doing an outstanding job and are making sure that you're compliant with all those standards. So I'm just reemphasizing that not only is it the gas tax distribution, but here's $1 million+ that we likely would not have gotten had you not been in compliance. So just reemphasizing how important that work is that you do.
And we're aware of that. We are very, very dependent on RAP funding, and we take that extremely seriously. So we like to be in their good graces.
Any questions, Commissioner Mullen?
No, I have no questions.
I have one, Craig. On that stretch of road right there by 170, just south of it a little bit, I did some work up there for a gentleman. There is a severe embankment there, and I see that you only have $280,000 for the right-of-way improvement.
Yeah,
Where are you going to get the material at to fill that, to widen that road?
we have sites available, and we'll get into that further along in the design process as of identifying our needs for fill, and we may look at, retaining walls or other solutions to that issue.
Because the material that's there that I worked with, it's clay, and it is
Northern
not
part
easy
of
to
the
work
county soil is not as blessed as the south.
No, you don't want to get in there when it's...
We do have sources for fill material, and we'll pursue that in the design phase.
It's quite a stretch there. It's going to take a lot of material. That's what I was wondering, 280,000, I don't know if that's, if that's for the right-of-way, it might be a little short.
Yeah, we have a fairly narrow corridor. Most of Glade has an 80-foot corridor, but that particular section only has a 60. Hence why we necked it down to 34 feet. I know from my own experience as a designer that I can shoehorn 34-foot road into a 60-foot corridor, but I can't do a 40.
Right.
We think we can do it. We're pretty successful with, and as I said, there are several methods that we can address the embankment issue, and I'm confident we'll get the right solution. Hopefully, right-of-way is always kind of a mystery, so we'll see how it rolls.
All right, well, I trust your judgment, so I was just curious as to where you were going to get material, because I wouldn't trust the stuff that's there.
No, we do have good sources in the county where we can import material.
Good deal. All righty. So with that, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion. It's Resolution 2022-112.
Make the motion that we approve Resolution 2022-112.
Second?
Been a motion and a second for the approval of Resolution 2022-112. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Down to public comment. Is there anybody for public comment? Anybody on the phone, Keith?
No one currently on the phone, sir.
Nobody for public comment. We'll move down to closed session, RCW. Oh, Keith, I'll let you take us into the closed session.
Okay, thank you. We
Thank
would
you.
request a closed session under RCW 42.30.140, paragraph 4, subparagraph B, collective bargaining. That asks that the members of the board, the clerk, and the HR director be allowed to participate.
Labor negotiator, Tony Menke.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. And request that for up to 30 minutes. Mr. Chairman, I was just alerted that we do have a caller on the phone. If you want to back up to public comment.
We'll back up and we'll take that because I don't think the negotiator's here right now, right?
He'll be calling you.
Oh, I thought he was sitting beside you. Okay.
Good morning, is this Lawanda?
Yeah, sorry, I tried to call as soon as I thought you were winding up. Anyhow, I was just calling about the investigation. Just wanted to reiterate, I was reading the Tri-City Herald article, and it had, I appreciate what Commissioner Peck was saying, that we need to be careful not to reveal innocent people. In reading the article, it said that there were some people that were put on leave until the investigation was finished. So anybody that is a staff member that their information should not be revealed. But as an elected officials, I know when our nation's legislature, I've watched, they get to see redacted information. I trust Commissioner Didier. I should hope that we can trust all of our commissioners with that kind of information. You are our legislators as well as our executive, at least at this point. And so I think that if they're, the people trust them, I believe that they would keep anything confidential. And then if they did reveal it to the public, anything that was not pertinent and was private information would again be redacted. So that's just my 2 bits. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I believe that's all.
Okay, we'll move into closed session negotiations. So we've come out of closed session, and we're going to extend for 10 more minutes under the same RCW. Okay, we have come out of closed session, and we're back to regular session. With that, Keith, do we need an action on that closed session bargaining?
We need a motion.
Just consensus.
To approve the
To move forward with the,
request of the HR department and
The recommendation of the HR department, I support it.
Yes.
That's consistent with our council. Okay.
you got 3 yeses.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on down to administration office business, update on the Mental Health Advisory Commission.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question came up earlier in the meeting, and I appreciate having the opportunity to update the board on a couple of things. We initiated a process for seeking applications for the Benton Franklin Behavioral Health Advisory Committee. We requested that those applications be submitted by the end of April. We have received applications for all of the positions except for a hospital representative. I might just remind the board that there is membership available for a member of law enforcement, a member of fire EMS, a member as a hospital representative, a member as a mental health practitioner, a member as a substance use disorder practitioner, one person that's lived or has they call it with lived experience, that would be themselves or a family member, and then 2 positions for the general public, and an additional person with lived experience that will be appointed by the committee members themselves. So we received an application for the law enforcement, the fire, the mental health practitioner, the substance use disorder practitioner. We received 5 or 6, depending on how you characterize the persons with lived experience in general public. So we do have sufficient applications for every position except for, as I said, the hospital representative from Franklin County. So I've got to do some work with the hospitals to see if they've got somebody that they'll put forward. The question, I guess, remains is of those who have submitted applications for persons with lived experience or members of the general public, what kind of next step process would the board prefer? Would they want myself and to make a recommendation, or would the board like to visit with each of these individuals and the board directly make those appointments?
Can we, you say there's 6 people?
Yes,
Is it appropriate to give names?
I can certainly do that. If you're ready to hear those names.
Yes, please.
For the persons with lived experience, they have applied as both persons with lived experience or a representative of the general public.
Okay.
They're not disqualified or mutually exclusive categories. Obviously, if they were applying as a mental health practitioner or a fire or hospital, they would have certain criteria they'd have to meet. But the persons with lived experience, the names are Angie Mandarola, Carol Simmons, Ken Galbraith, Aaron Petty, Trevor Hummel, and Tiffany Iyer. Each of them have submitted a brief statement of their credentials as it relates to the issue.
So I have Angie Manarola, Carol, last name again, please?
Simmons,
Simmons, and then Ken, what was Ken's last name?
Ken Galbraith,
Okay. Okay, and then who, the rest, Trevor Hummel?
Trevor Hummel, Aaron Petty, and Tiffany Iyer.
Okay.
And how many positions are you looking for out of the general public?
And, there's one more here. It looks like Deanna Petrilli. She's a community member. But she's also got a application as a expert in mental health. Looks like there's 3 for the mental health practitioner.
Well, we don't have anybody from the hospitals yet.
No one from the hospitals yet from Franklin County.
Is it too late for them to submit?
No.
Oh,
No, we asked that applications be in by April 30th, but it wasn't like a hard deadline for,
and what was Deanna's last name again, please? The last one you said
Trelli.
gave us 7 total.
Petrilli, Petrilli.
So on the hospital representation, if they work in Franklin County at the hospital, do they have to live in Franklin County?
No, and I'm not sure that they would have to work for a Franklin County hospital.
Okay, thank you.
I suppose that would be preferable, ideal, but it's not a stated requirement.
Keith,
And
how
then-
many apps did you have for the other categories, LE, fire, et cetera?
Law enforcement, just 1, fire, just 1, hospital, none, mental health practitioners, looks like we have 3, substance use disorder practitioners, 1, persons with lived experience,
7.
5 to 6.
I thought you said it was 7. Did you move one to mental health?
Yes, there's one, Deanna Petrilli applied both as a expert or practitioner in mental health as well as a community or member of the general public.
And how many positions are there for the general public?
2, isn't there?
2 that we would appoint and 1 that the committee members would appoint.
Okay.
So when is the, what's the timeline on this one? Do we want to have this in place?
Well, our tax went into effect April 1st. We won't know probably till July what that number looks like. Benton County is forming their committee as well, or their appointments for the members of this committee. But I would think within the next couple of weeks, we'd like to get that finalized.
Okay. All righty, so no pertinent decisions today then? Just sort of an update.
Yeah, and I guess just if you want to advise me on how you would like to select those members of the public, would you like a recommendation from me, or would you like to review each of their applications? And
I would like to review each of their applications.
That's what
I will forward those to you.
Thank you. And then next meeting, maybe we can have a discussion and narrow it down. All right. Is there anything else, Keith?
So Keith, April 30th is when we'd like to have applications in. So our first meeting, I don't have a calendar, first meeting opportunity after that would be when?
Well, April 30 was a few weeks ago.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You said you have to have them in by April 30th.
These are the
and-
ones that we received by April 30th.
And what I meant to ask is, how much longer do you propose we keep them open, and then what would be the first meeting opportunity after that?
I would think that we'd ought to pretty well have this wrapped up by the end of May, with people identified, and then they
So,
could meet sometime in June.
I guess what I'm wondering is why we don't put this on the calendar for next week's meeting to make these approvals. We should be able to find a hospital representative,
Yeah.
in a week. We've got all the other positions covered, and a week is certainly enough time for the board to review these. So I'm just trying to lay out a timeline. Short of
Yeah.
doing a special meeting, that's the soonest we could do this.
Correct.
So that's what I would propose, is that we plan to take action next Tuesday.
I think that works.
Does that give you enough time to find one more representation from the hospital? That's only 7 days.
Yeah, I believe there are representatives available. They just haven't submitted an application, but I think we can do that.
Yeah, I think if they know that we're moving to appoint individuals on Tuesday, that may help.
And if we get more than one applicant for the hospitals, could we please have theirs
Oh, yeah.
to review,
You'll
please?
receive all of them.
Any multiple ones that we got to choose from, yeah, I'd like to see their applicants.
That's really all of them, but the fire, LE, and SUD, and frankly, you might as well give us copies of those too,
Yep.
so we know who we're appointing.
All right, anything else, Keith?
Just briefly, I think a question was mentioned about the KGH hospital acquisition. Benton County has run into some issues with that. I have asked for a meeting with my counterpart and Commissioner Delvin, who's been involved in some of those negotiations with KGH, to discuss some issues that Franklin County has concerns about. So we're, I think, scheduled to meet later this week with them to
Okay.
see what the latest status of that is. That's all.
All righty, with that, is there any other business for the good of the county? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.